My parents abandoned me in a coma, but when I faced them in court, they collapsed. Hi, my name is Rebecca and I just turned 28 last month. The day everything changed. I had just signed a $7.2 million contract with the Denver Storm. I was on top of the world, ready to share my success with my family despite our complicated relationship. I never expected my sister Amanda would push me down the stairs out of jealousy. I definitely never thought I would wake up alone in a hospital bed, abandoned by my own blood. Before I tell you how I went from signing a life-changing contract to waking up in a hospital bed, let me know where you're watching from. Drop a comment and subscribe if you want to hear stories that will remind you why family is not always blood. I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Phoenix with my parents David and Patricia, my older sister Amanda who is 33, and my younger brother Jake, who is 24. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family. But appearances can be deceiving. For as long as I can remember, there was always an unspoken hierarchy in our household. Amanda was the golden child. Jake was the baby of the family. And I was somewhere in between, often forgotten or overlooked. My parents attended every single one of Amanda's piano recitals and art exhibitions, praising her mediocre talents as if she was destined for greatness. Meanwhile, my basketball games were an inconvenience, something they would attend only if nothing better was happening that day. Basketball is not a real career path for a girl, my father would say dismissively whenever I mentioned my dreams. You should focus on something practical, like your sister. Amanda knew she had this power over me, the unconditional support of our parents, and she wielded it like a weapon. When we were younger, she would break her own things and blame it on me, resulting in my punishment. As we grew older, her tactics became more sophisticated, more manipulative. By 16, I realized that if I wanted anything in life, I would have to work for it myself. I got a job at the local Target, stacking shelves after school and on weekends. I saved every penny knowing that my parents would prioritize Amanda's college fund over mine. Basketball was my escape, my passion, and eventually my ticket out. I would practice for hours after school, often alone on the community court, perfecting my technique through countless drills. When it rained, I would still be out there, the water making the ball slippery and hard to control. But I never gave up. It was during one of these solitary practice sessions in the rain that Coach Martinez first noticed me. She was 43, tough as nails with the kind of no-nonsense attitude that commanded respect. She pulled up in her beat-up Honda Civic, rolled down the window, and watched me for a full 20 minutes before approaching. "You have natural talent," she said, not as a compliment, but as a simple statement of fact, but talent without discipline is useless. If you are willing to work harder than you have ever worked in your life, I can help you turn that raw ability into something special. Coach Martinez became more than just my coach. She became the maternal figure I had always longed for. Under her guidance, I transformed from a talented but unfocused player into a disciplined athlete with real potential. College scouts started showing up at my games during senior year. I received several scholarship offers and accepted one from Arizona State University with a strong women's basketball program. My parents barely acknowledged this achievement. "I suppose that will save us some money," my mother commented when I showed them my scholarship letter, as if that was the only value in what I had accomplished. College was where I met Daniel. He was in his first year of law school when we bumped into each other, literally, at the campus Starbucks. I was rushing to practice. He was buried in a constitutional law textbook, and our collision resulted in my Gatorade spilling all over his notes. I expected anger, but instead got a smile that made my heart skip a beat. "Now I have an excuse to rewrite these," he joked, gesturing to the purple-stained pages. Honestly, I was looking for any reason to take a break. Daniel was different from anyone I had ever met. He came from a loving, supportive family and could not understand the dynamic I described with mine. He would often listen in disbelief as I recounted stories from my childhood. "That is not normal, Rebecca," he would say. "Families are supposed to support each other, to build each other up, not tear each other down." With Daniel's emotional support and Coach Martinez's continued guidance, I thrived in college. I became a star player, breaking several school records and gaining attention from professional scouts. My degree in sports management gave me a backup plan, but my heart was set on playing professionally. Meanwhile, my family continued their pattern of indifference. They attended exactly 2 of my college games in 4 years. Amanda had moved back home after failing to make it as an artist in Los Angeles and was working at a local gallery, constantly complaining about how underappreciated her talent was. Jake was following in my father's footsteps studying business and already showing signs of adopting their dismissive attitude toward my career choice. Despite their lack of support, I remained determined to succeed, not to prove them wrong, but to prove to myself that I was worthy of the dream I had been chasing for so long. The game that changed everything happened during the NCAA championship. We were down by 2 points with 10 seconds left on the clock. The ball came to me at the three-point line, and time seemed to slow down. I could see every option, every player's position, as if the court had suddenly become a chessboard. I faked a pass to my teammate on the right, pivoted left, and launched myself into a jump shot just as the buzzer sounded. The ball arced through the air, and the entire arena fell silent. When it swished through the net, the crowd erupted in a roar that I can still hear in my dreams. We had won the championship and I had scored the winning basket. That moment was captured by dozens of cameras, replayed on ESPN nationwide. And suddenly, my name was on everyone's lips. 3 talent scouts approached me after the game, business cards extended, promises of bright futures hanging in the air between us. The most persistent scout was from the Denver Storm, a team that had been struggling in recent seasons and was looking for fresh talent to revitalize their lineup. Their initial offer was good, but Daniel, who had just passed the bar exam and was working at a sports law firm, advised me to negotiate. "They want you more than they are letting on," he said, reviewing the contract terms. "This is just their opening position. We can push for better conditions." The negotiations stretched over 3 months, with offers and counteroffers going back and forth. Each time the Storm came back with a new proposal, Daniel would pore over it, highlighting areas where we could still improve the terms. "What if they withdraw the offer completely?" I asked Daniel one night, anxiety keeping me awake. "What if I am pushing too hard and they decide I am not worth the trouble?" "They will not walk away," he assured me, his confidence unwavering. "You are the best rookie prospect this season. They need you more than you need them." Coach Martinez was equally supportive during this period. She had connections in the professional league and kept reassuring me that the interest from Denver was genuine. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of back and forth, we reached an agreement. $7.2 million over 3 years with performance bonuses that could potentially add another $2.5 million. It was more than I had ever dreamed possible. The day I signed the contract was surreal. The team president, Robert Sterling, a legend in the basketball world, personally welcomed me to the Denver Storm. Cameras flashed as we shook hands, and I struggled to maintain my composure. "Welcome to the family, Rebecca," Robert said, his grip firm, his smile genuine. "We believe you are going to help take this team to the championship." As I walked out of the Storm headquarters, contract signed and future secured, I felt a strange mixture of emotions. Pride in what I had accomplished, excitement for what lay ahead, but also a lingering sadness that I had no one from my actual family to share this moment with. Despite years of neglect and dismissal, some part of me still craved their approval, their recognition. And in that moment of triumph, I made a decision that would ultimately change the course of my life in ways I could never have anticipated. I decided to go home and share my news with my family, hoping that perhaps this achievement, this undeniable success, would finally make them see me. Before heading to Phoenix, I video called Daniel from my hotel room. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. "You know how they are. I do not want them to ruin this moment for you." "I have to try," I said. "Maybe this time will be different. Maybe now they will finally be proud of me." "Just remember, whatever happens, this is your achievement. No one can take that away from you. And I am so incredibly proud of you, Rebecca." I stopped at various stores before heading to my parents' house, picking out thoughtful gifts for each family member, imagining their reactions, their surprise and delight. The familiar scent of my mother's vanilla candles hit me as I opened the front door. The house looked exactly the same as it always had, from the family photos lining the hallway to the worn leather furniture in the living room. "Hello," I called out, setting down the shopping bags filled with gifts. "Anyone home?" My mother emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her expression shifted from surprise to a forced smile when she saw me. "Rebecca, we were not expecting you," she said, her tone making it clear that my unannounced visit was an inconvenience. "I wanted to surprise you all," I replied, trying to keep my voice light. "Is everyone here?" Soon the family gathered in the living room. I took a deep breath and began to share my news. I just signed a contract with the Denver Storm, I announced, unable to keep the pride from my voice. $7.2 million over 3 years with performance bonuses. The silence that followed was deafening. My father's eyebrows raised slightly, the first sign of genuine surprise I had seen from him in years. My mother's mouth opened and closed as if she was struggling to find words. Jake looked genuinely impressed, while Amanda's face had gone completely still. $7.2 million, my father finally said, disbelief evident in his voice. I began distributing the presents, explaining each choice as I handed them out. My father examined the Rolex with a mixture of appreciation and something else, something that looked almost like resentment. My mother ran her fingers over the soft leather of the coach bag, her expression unreadable. Jake was genuinely delighted with the PlayStation 5. And then there was Amanda. She opened the Tiffany jewelry box slowly, staring at the necklace inside without touching it. Instead, she snapped the box shut and placed it on the coffee table with deliberate care. "How nice of you to throw your money around," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Must feel good to show off like this." "Amanda," my mother said half-heartedly, but there was no real reproach in her tone. "No, Mom, let us be honest for once," Amanda continued, her voice rising. "Little Rebecca comes back after signing some big sports contract and thinks she can buy our approval with expensive gifts." The room grew tense as Amanda continued to vent years of pent-up jealousy. To my shock, instead of trying to calm the situation, my parents began to side with her. "You have always had a way of making everything about yourself, Rebecca," my father said coldly. "Coming here flaunting your success, acting like we should all be grateful for your attention and your handouts." I stood up, fighting back tears. "I did not come here to fight. I came to share something important with the people I thought would be happy for me. Clearly, I was wrong." I moved toward the staircase, intending to go to my old room and collect myself before leaving. Amanda followed me, her face flushed with anger. "You always do this," she spat, her voice rising to a shout. "Play the victim when things do not go your way." "I just need a minute alone," I said, my hand on the banister. "Alone? You want to be alone? Fine," Amanda screamed. And before I could react, she shoved me backward with all her strength. Time seemed to slow down as I lost my balance. I remember the look of pure hatred on Amanda's face, the gasp from Jake, the terrible moment of weightlessness as I began to fall. My head hit the edge of a step with a sickening crack, and pain exploded through my skull. I tumbled down the remaining stairs, my body hitting each step with bone-jarring force until I finally came to rest at the bottom, the world going dark around me. The last thing I heard before losing consciousness was my mother's voice, cold and distant. She deserved it. The steady beep of a heart monitor was the first thing I became aware of. The sound penetrated the darkness, pulling me toward consciousness one electronic pulse at a time. My eyelids felt impossibly heavy, as if they had been glued shut. "She is waking up," a woman's voice said from somewhere to my right. "Go get Dr. Thompson." I tried to turn my head toward the voice, but a neck brace kept me immobilized. Panic began to rise in my chest as I realized I could not move properly. "Try not to move," the woman said, coming into my field of vision. She was wearing blue scrubs, her name tag identifying her as Maria, RN. "You have been in an accident." Not an accident, I thought. My sister pushed me. My family watched. But my throat was too dry to speak. "Here," Maria said, holding a straw to my lips. "Small sips." After a few sips, I tried again. "How long?" I managed to ask. "You have been unconscious for 4 days," Maria replied, her expression sympathetic. "Do you remember what happened?" Before I could answer, a tall man in a white coat entered the room. "Miss Carter, I am Dr. Thompson. Glad to see you are awake. You had us worried." The next hour was a blur of questions, examinations, and devastating information. I had suffered a severe concussion, 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and trauma to my spine. The doctor was particularly concerned about the spinal injury. "Will I be able to play again?" I asked, my mind immediately going to basketball. Dr. Thompson's hesitation told me everything I needed to know. "It is too early to make any definitive statements. You will need several months of physical therapy, possibly surgery. Professional sports may be out of the question for some time, perhaps permanently. The words hit me like another fall down the stairs. My contract, my future, everything I had worked for suddenly hanging by the thinnest of threads. I need to call my boyfriend, I said, and my coach. They need to know what happened. Of course, Dr. Thompson nodded. But first, would you like us to contact your family? No one has been here to visit yet. His words sent a chill through me. No one had been here. Not my parents, not my siblings. No one from my family had bothered to check if I was alive or dead after I was pushed down a flight of stairs in their own home. Later that evening, Maria returned with devastating news. My family had come by once the first night, but only to collect my personal effects. The next morning, the door to my room burst open, and Daniel rushed in, his face pale with worry. When he saw me bandaged and bruised, hooked up to various machines, he stopped dead in his tracks. "Rebecca," he breathed, crossing the room and carefully taking my uninjured hand in his. "My God, what happened? I have been trying to call you for days." The dam broke, and everything came pouring out. I told him about going home, about the gifts, about Amanda's jealousy and my parents' betrayal. I told him about the fall, about waking up alone, about learning that my family had only come to take my possessions. Daniel listened in stunned silence, his grip on my hand tightening with each new detail. When I finished, he was literally shaking with anger. "I am going to make them pay for this," he said, his voice low and controlled. "This was not an accident. This was assault, and they left you here to die." Later that day, Coach Martinez arrived, having flown in from Denver as soon as Daniel called her. Unlike Daniel, she did not try to hide her anger. "Those people are not your family," she declared, pacing at the foot of my bed. "Family does not do this to each other. As far as I am concerned, they are dead to us." That evening, Maria came in with more disturbing news. My health insurance had been cancelled, and there had been large withdrawals from my bank account. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. "They are stealing from me," I whispered, the betrayal reaching new depths. "After everything else, they are actually robbing me while I am in the hospital." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I will call the bank right now, and then I am calling the police. This stops today." The damage was extensive. They had emptied my checking account, maxed out my credit cards. Nearly $95,000 all told. "I want to press charges," I said, meeting Daniel's gaze directly. "All of them. Amanda for assault. All of them for theft." Daniel nodded, a grim smile spreading across his face. "I was hoping you would say that." Over the following weeks, Detective Rodriguez built a solid case against my family. We had security footage from a neighbor's camera that captured the incident through the window, an audio recording from my phone that had accidentally been activated, and clear evidence of the theft. My family was arrested and charged. Amanda faced aggravated assault charges, while my parents were charged with theft, fraud, and criminal negligence. Meanwhile, Robert Sterling from the Denver Storm surprised me with a visit. Despite my injury, the organization offered me a position as an assistant player development coach with full medical benefits and a modified version of my original contract. "The Storm needs people like you, Rebecca," he said. "People with determination, with heart, with the ability to overcome adversity. Those qualities do not disappear just because you cannot play right now." For the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, I felt hope stirring in my chest. The day of the arraignment arrived 6 weeks after my fall. I had undergone spinal surgery 2 weeks earlier, and while the procedure had been successful, I was still weak and in considerable pain. The doctors had advised against attending court, but I was determined to be there. "Are you sure about this?" Daniel asked that morning as he helped me into the wheelchair. "No one would blame you for watching remotely." "I need to be there," I insisted. "I need them to see me, to know that they did not break me, even if they tried their best." The courtroom was packed when we arrived. News of the case had leaked to the press. The story of a professional athlete betrayed by her own family was too sensational to ignore. The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Walsh, presented the evidence we had gathered, the security footage clearly showing Amanda pushing me through the window, the audio recording capturing not only the assault but also my parents' callous response, bank records showing the withdrawals and fraudulent charges. Throughout the presentation, I watched my family's faces. My father maintained a stoic expression, though his jaw tightened when the audio recording was played. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, playing the distressed parent, though she had shown no such concern when I was actually injured. Amanda's defiance gradually crumbled as the evidence mounted. Their defense attorneys did their best, but their arguments seemed weak against such overwhelming evidence. When it came time for bail to be considered, ADA Walsh argued forcefully against it. Your Honor, the defendants have already demonstrated a willingness to harm the victim and exploit her vulnerable state. They represent an ongoing threat to her safety. To my surprise, the judge agreed, denying bail for all 3 defendants. They would remain in custody until trial. As the court officers moved to lead them away, my father finally looked directly at me, his expression a mixture of anger and something that might have been shame. Then his gaze shifted to the back of the courtroom where Robert Sterling sat. "Oh my God, it is Robert Sterling," he exclaimed loud enough for the entire courtroom to hear. "The president of the Denver Storm is here." The outburst caused a stir. My father seemed to suddenly realize the full implications of what they had done, not just to me personally, but to my career, to my future. For a moment, Amanda and I made eye contact across the courtroom. And I saw something I had never seen in her expression before, genuine regret. As they were led away, Daniel squeezed my shoulder gently. "It is over," he said softly. But I knew it was not really over. The trial still lay ahead, and beyond that, the long road of recovery. Yet for the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, I felt a sense of closure. 18 months later, I wheeled myself onto the court for the first time since the fall. Not as a player, not yet, but as Coach Rebecca Carter, assistant player development coach for the Denver Storm. The journey had taught me that family is not defined by blood, but by the people who stand beside you in your darkest moments and believe in you when you can no longer believe in yourself.